systematically identifying and extracting different types of road features and democratizing that and providing that to a wider range of users. So the traditional concept and the traditional thought is that the government is the primary user for this type of data. What we've been finding is that that is not necessarily the case. We are finding other users, such as drivers and other commercial entities and businesses that can also benefit from this data. To begin, I want to tell you about a story in terms of how we try to go and engage different let's say, government groups. About a couple of weeks ago, we went and visited Dave Kennedy, who's the city manager of Loveland, Ohio. What we're doing now when we go out on these engagements is trying to collect the data beforehand so that we can demonstrate our ability to collect all this data and productize it in a format that is suitable and digestible for them immediately. So they have about 100 lane miles. We collected that data just a couple days beforehand and productized that into a format that is a work product, which then they can hand out to their individual work crews. But what we've also found through that discussion and through that research is that Loveland, Ohio is not that much different from every other community, not just in Ohio, but across the community as well. And what we are finding is that the problem that they're facing is that they don't have the resources to go out and actually maintain the roads and the road networks in a high level of status. And the resources we are talking about is both revenue, capital, but also the data. We were at the Public Works Conference in Dayton last week, and one of the main enablers for a high quality pavement management program is access to timely and comprehensive data. And that's something that nobody routinely has. But overall, the problem doesn't just affect the government. Next slide. We are also finding that those that are impacted by like we said before, is the everyday motorist. AAA and the government annually comes out with studies routinely that estimates that on average every year there's about $4 to $6 billion expended based on pothole damage. On top of that, there are about 33,000 fatalities. 1/3 of those are caused by poor roadway conditions every year. So there's an impact beyond just the government and their inability to maintain high quality road conditions. Like we said before, the insurance estimate, or insurance companies and Insurance Institute of America estimates that there's about 500,000 claims a year based on this type of, I would say, inability to maintain, the road conditions as well. So what is being done from the government standpoint? I guess what's not being done is we understand that there's a funding gap to the tune of $850 billion between now and 2020 to be able to increase the level or just maintain the current road conditions that we have now. So with that gap, you're going to find out that the road conditions are going to continually deteriorate across the country. What we also know is that for every dollar invested in road maintenance, $7 is saved down the road at a minimum of $7, but also up to potentially $14 per dollar invested. So Road Aid is positioning ourselves in the center in creating an ecosystem to collect this data and also provide it to this wider network of users. And by what we are also doing, we're enabling this by the timely and frequent and comprehensive collection of all this data. By frequent, we're talking about at a minimum of once a week, and comprehensive meaning 90+% of an actual city's road infrastructure. We are designing and developing a way to collect this data in an automatic sense and then be able to productize that for all these different users. So, like we said before, what we are approaching, or what our whole entire concept is based on our ability to collect all this data and then tailor it. Like we said, for Lebanon, Ohio, we are creating work products that is actionable based on the data that we provide that to them. So we go there and we give them a hard copy that says, here's where all of your potholes are located, or whatever other type of features we want to be able to present. And all those additional features can include things from lane markings to manhole covers to actual manholes to utility patches that are occurring in the streets. All of these are things that the local municipalities and governments are responsible for maintaining and inventorying. However, what they're doing currently is manually sending people out to actually go out and record these in a manual sense. From the driver standpoint, this is something that is, I guess, occurring with, if you look at here, what Google Maps is doing, but the problem that they have is it's not in any sense, timely or comprehensive. They might send out their Google car once a year, or I would say twice a year. We're looking at being able to make that frequency once a week, which will then provide motorists and drivers with that timely information to be able to then drive defensively. The other innovation that we're doing is how we're approaching to bring this to market. We're looking at an innovative data as a service business model, which means rather than what the current approach is, where companies are charging governments per lane mile driven, we're looking at per data feature that we are able to extract and then provide to them. Based on discussions with numerous governments, we're finding that I would say this pricing structure for both the motorist and for the driver or for the government is well within, I would say, their appetite for being able to incorporate this into their current budgets. So, for example, the city of Houston estimates that per pothole repaired, they spend on average of $12. Another $3 to $5 is well within their range per pothole, for the standpoint of this being a completely proactive sort of approach to being able to solve this problem currently. The other common question, and how big is this market? These are the numbers that we estimate in terms of the number of potholes that we are, I would say, going to be able to inventory. And again, it's not just that we're trying to create a pothole business, but we believe that's where the economic and emotional burden for everybody is that can sort of rally in terms of how we can address the overall gap in terms of the investment going forward. So where do we fall and what differentiates ourselves from all the other potential players in the space? We are focusing primarily on the intersection between the government and the motorists and all these additional say players in the environment. What we are doing is we're taking the capabilities that the autonomous vehicle say providers are trying to incorporate in terms of being able to create high definition maps and being able to provide that same capability to governments. Because what they're missing is the ability to actually use this information on a day-to-day basis. And we are looking at three different, I would say, tenets that would differentiate ourselves. One is by having that wider user base. Number two, the access to lane miles, and the more lane miles we actually have access to, the better and the more we're able to compete. And then third is the ability to productize the same data point over by a factor of 5, 10, and 25, 50 times going forward. So the same data point can be productized to the government, can be productized to the motorist, and it can be productized to the government also to justify additional funding for all these infrastructure investment projects going forward as well. So what, I would say, success or traction have we been able to find thus far? We've had a lot of, I would say, positive engagements with different government groups, and this has been, I would say, the most powerful statement that we've been able to, I would say, find thus far. The city of Houston, the public director, believes that they have a, I would say, proactive road maintenance project, and when they've heard, I would say, the capabilities that we're trying to, I would say, push forward, they, I would say, view this as completely transformational and something that nobody else is doing at all. So we've been at this and looking at researching this problem for over 5 years. We've gone through the lean method, or the lean startup methodology. We've identified the problem, identifying what, I would say, user group, whether that's going to be a commercial approach, focusing on insurance companies, whether that's focused on the government, whether that's focusing on the individual driver. And we're finding that a lot of people, a lot of potential providers for this capability do not want to focus on the government customer. But we've been able to, I would say, identify what that pain point and how to best deliver that, that data to them so that it's actionable. Currently, we are in the UpTech Accelerator program out of Covington, Kentucky. It was a pretty competitive process. I would say there were submissions from 65 different countries, and we were one of the 9 companies that were selected to participate in that going forward. And the team that we are building currently is 100% focused on the ability to deliver for the government customer. So we are focusing on recruiting people that aren't afraid of working with local and state governments. There's a lot of companies out there that will, I would say, it's in their business practice to avoid that potential market. But we are building, and we have those capabilities, I would say, inherent to us, as well as the technical capabilities to actually bring this forward. One thing about myself is I've been building, sort of these PCPad collection, processing, exploitation, dissemination systems and capabilities for, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and for the Department of Defense for the last 10 to 15 years, as well as other members of the team, and finding ways to create those actionable tactical and strategic products for the government customer. So that is sort of what is inherent to us. And finally, I would say before we get to what the ask is, the biggest customer or the biggest team member that we're trying to recruit is the city of Dayton in this community, because a lot of the capabilities that we are putting forward is native and inherent to this area. So you're talking about sensor phenomenology, the capability to automatically extract all these features and all this data is native to this area, as well as the appetite for working with local governments. As you go everywhere else, that appetite is not as, or that knowledge isn't as present going forward. What we also find out is that a lot of the potential players in this space are from the Dayton area. So for example, the CEO of one of those companies is a graduate of AFIT, and that's where he got his PhD from. So Dayton is sort of involved in this process. Whether or not Dayton capitalizes on it is going to be the other question going forward. So I guess the first thing that we're looking for is everybody become an ambassador of Dayton and Dayton's ability to solve or have shaped this problem one way or the other. Everybody here, by a show of hands, could have or does have a vehicle, knows somebody with a vehicle, or drives a vehicle and can benefit and has a personal story related to potholes or poor roadways one way or the other. The second thing we're looking for is an actual signed government partner to facilitate our winter pilot. So we will be collecting data, and we've collected data, we've collected data for the past couple of years. We're trying to focus the collection going forward in a particular area so that we'll be able to prove not a lot, but some more assumptions whether, based on the ability for the motorist to benefit from it, what that adoption rate is going to be, what the actual cost, and how much we're going to be able to productize and get governments on board going forward. So, appreciate it.